and God bless.
All right.
I heard a comment from you earlier where you were like, you wanted to impeach the first Democratic president that comes on.
I don't want to. I feel we have to if we have an obligation to our Constitution.
We never have one, to be honest with you.
What's that?
I hope we never have another.
Well, of course, but that's not going to happen.
Well, I hope not. My question, or my thought is, and I would love to hear your response, is I was always raised that two wrongs don't make a right.
But this isn't a wrong.
But why do we want to...
Two wrongs don't... If somebody robs a bank and says, you know what, I'm going to rob a bank too, because that's one thing. But if you're trying to fix what the Democrats have destroyed, then you got to follow a process that's going to do it. You see, you don't have an answer to this. You'll just let them do it.
I agree with you. But I just kind of...
But you don't want to do what has to be done to stop it. We cannot have a truly free country republic when one party rejects the Constitution and another party pretends to follow the Constitution. And so what has to happen in order to fix this, and we've had to deal with the Democrat Party when it's been a tyrannical party in the past, is you have to take steps that are necessary to fix it. Now, we can keep complaining. We keep talking about it. You might say, well, we need to elect more people. Well, isn't that the whole point? We did elect somebody, the President of the United States, and they want to replace him. They want to force him out of office. They've been doing this for 3 years. Now, we can wring our hands and whine about it, or we can try and do something about it. And I'm concerned, and I always have been, that there's a weak underbelly in the Republican Party, even in my beautiful audience, that seems to think that the moral high ground is to complain, to whine, to embrace the Constitution, while the other people have all but destroyed it. That's not how it works.
Well, I value your opinion, and I love you, and I'm going to watch you on Hannity tonight at 9:30.
Well, I'm going to make this case, so now you're going to see me come in a vicious attack. But I don't care. It happens all the time, and then what will happen is the backbenchers will say, it was my idea, I don't care. My point to you is simple. I know enough about American history. I've seen this before, and the only way to push back is to push back. We voted the president in. Now they want to eliminate the Electoral College. They want to use the Emoluments Clause. They want to use the Impeachment Clause. They want to use the Special Counsel. And either we push back against this sort of thing, or it's just going to keep happening, while the Republicans like McConnell sit on their thumbs. So the issue is, are you willing to fight for your republic or not? It's not a matter of getting even. It's not two wrongs don't make a right. It's we're right, they're wrong. I want to thank you for your call. We'll be right back.
Now broadcasting from the underground time post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our lead editor, Mark Levin.
Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. How many of you who live in these districts that went for Trump but now have a Democrat in the House and voted for that Democrat are now going to vote against them? I'm just curious. All right, there's a piece in the Washington Compost by Eric Holder. Eric Holder was one of the most political attorneys general and deputies attorney general in American history. He did Clinton's bidding and then he did Obama's bidding. And you might remember the recommendation on the pardons for Mark Rich, because Bill Clinton received an enormous amount of money in his campaigns for Mark Rich's wife. Mark Rich fled the country, owed an enormous amount of money in taxes. And he also recommended that FALN terrorists who are involved in the killing of Americans in New York City, that they get pardoned, and of course Clinton was happy to do so. Holder was also involved in an illegal scheme aimed at trying to build support for gun control by directing the sale of weaponry to Mexican drug cartels. One of the most outrageous things the Department of Justice has ever done. And Barack Obama asserted executive privilege over the provision of witnesses and documents, and he stonewalled Congress. Holder stonewalled Congress. But Holder is a leftist and a Lewinsky, an activist who should never have been anywhere near the Department of Justice. And he wrote a piece today in the Washington Compost trashing Attorney General William Barr. This is unheard of, but of course, no holds barred now. The headline is, William Barr is unfit to be Attorney General. As a former U.S. Attorney General, I'm reluctant to publicly criticize my successors. No, he's not. He just did it. I respect the office and understand just how tough the job can be, but recently, Attorney General William Barr has made a series of public statements and taken actions. Send your money from our fast gas pickup around the world. That are so plainly ideological, so nakedly artificial, that they demand a response from someone who held the same office. Now remember, this is a guy who trashed law enforcement. This is a guy who immediately ran to the defense of people who are accusing officers of abuse. This is a guy who did very little to secure our border. And I can go on and on and on. Last month, at a Federalist Society event, the Attorney General delivered an ode to essentially unbridled executive power, dismissing the authority of the legislative and judicial branches and the checks and balances at the heart of America's constitutional order. No, he didn't. Is there a single court order that this Attorney General has defied? No. So what is this fool talking about? As others have pointed out, Barr's argument rests on a flawed view of U.S. history. To me, his attempts to vilify the president's critics sounded more like the tactics of an unscrupulous criminal defense lawyer than a U.S. Attorney General. Well, to you, they would sound that way, having been an unscrupulous criminal defense lawyer yourself. When in the same speech, Barr accused the other side, quote-unquote, of the systematic shredding of norms and the undermining of the rule of law, he exposed himself as a partisan actor, not an impartial law enforcement official. Oh, BS. By the other side, he means the lawless, rogue efforts and individuals who are involved in trying to upend an election. Should Mr. Holder have written about what was done at the FISA court by his former colleague, Jim Comey? Shouldn't he have written about what happened to the Department of Justice when he handed it off? When he was Attorney General to Loretta Lynch? Shouldn't he have written an op-ed about how disappointed he is in his former administration, the Obama administration? And shouldn't he have written a piece about how he failed to protect us from interference in our elections by the Russians? It didn't just start in 2016. But he didn't do any of those things. Of course. In Barr's view, sharing executive power with anyone beyond the control of the president, quote-unquote, presumably including a semi-independent cabinet member, contravenes the framers' clear intent to vest that power in a single person. This is a stunning declaration, not merely of ideology, but of loyalty. Now, let's stop there. My defense for Barr's position is called the Constitution. There's not a single cabinet position in the Constitution. Not one. And so what he's doing is he's attacking a constitutionalist view of the Constitution. That the president is not, in the end, the head of the executive branch. That Congress can create all these independent entities, cabinet positions, agency heads, and so forth, who really don't, in his view, report up through the President of the United States. But that would undermine completely Article 2 of the Constitution. Undermine it completely. But he says this is a stunning declaration, not merely of ideology, but of loyalty to the President and his interests. No, it's not. And this Attorney General served another president 20 years ago, President Bush. It's also revealing a bar's own intent to serve not at a careful remove from politics, as his office demands, but as an instrument of politics under the direct control of President Trump. This is so stupid. Mr. Goose, would you please, and he may not even know who I am, so this might work, would you please invite Eric Holder to come on the program so we could have a wonderful discussion of his op-ed? I believe he's in a law firm in Washington, D.C. somewhere. And he goes through this in his typical way, as you might expect. So we want to discuss this op-ed with Eric Holder, as well as his own legacy at the Department of Justice. Having been somebody who was Chief of Staff to an Attorney General, me, I do know a little something about this, and I would like to discuss it with him. What he thinks, not just the role of an Attorney General is, but what was his role, and a couple of the main things that took place when he was Attorney General and when he was Deputy Attorney General. A lot of that are quite troubling. I want to know his view of executive privilege, since his president asserted it. I want to know his view of DACA, since his president wrote legislation and issued it as an executive order fiat. How is that possible? Is that constitutional? And how it can be that, even though the Constitution doesn't authorize it, that Congress can set up independent agencies and cabinet secretaries and this, that, and the other, and they're not directly responsible to the President of the United States. This is just ridiculous.